Welcome to the IAM Power Hour, where personal growth meets empowerment.
I'm Terry, and we're here to inspire, challenge, and help you transform your mindset.
And I'm Stacie. Today, we're going to be setting the record straight and talk about breaking the age barrier, reinventing life, career, and confidence after 50, plus everything in between.
So let's get started and ignite the power in you.
Welcome to the IAM Power Hour. I'm Stacie. I'm here with my co-host Terry, and it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day, even though it's raining. Terry, do you like the rain? I like the rain.
I know you like the rain, and I love the rain as far as how it helps to nourish the ground and the grass and the flowers and the trees during this blooming time. But it's been raining for a couple of days, and when you said it's a beautiful, beautiful day, I was like, where are you? I know you're not here in the same town I am, but I was like, geez, it's raining here.
It is. It's raining here too, and you're right. I do. I enjoy the rain because, like you said, my garden, all my little plants have started to come up out of the ground, and believe it or not, we are halfway to summer
I know.
already. Like
I
we are
know.
halfway through spring, getting ready to hit summer, and that just makes me so full of joy that I just love it. And I'm going to go dance in the rain here later. So,
Oh,
all
I
good.
don't blame you. Good way to ground.
That's
We've
right.
had those conversations too.
That's right. And actually, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later also.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Stacie, how was your week?
Just like I said, just kind of playing around in the garden and working and learning new things, as we're going to talk about later today too. And just trying to be happy. Right? It's just all about being happy.
It
What about
is
you?
being happy and finding that joy. And I'm pretty much on the same track as you are, as far as, I've had a lot of work going on as usual, but that's typical for my days and days in and days out. But I've tried to spend some time this week to just trying to ground and get myself centered and back going. And so it's been a really good week. I've got a lot of big things coming up because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so with that, I am getting more and more fully booked for this month, but I love being able to help people to move through that and to understand more about their mental health, mental and emotional health and well-being, and lessening the stigma with that. So we've had a great week and getting ready to move right on in through May, and then we're moving into June, and it will be summer before we know it. So
Good,
it's been a great time. It's been a great week.
good, good. I'm glad to hear it. And speaking of summer, I was sitting down the other day, and my dad, his birthday is kind of smack dab right in the middle of summer, right? It's July 8th. And it
Oh,
dawned on me that this year he's going to be turning 80,
oh, wow.
the big 80. And the poor man doesn't even want to party, right? I keep telling my mom, just party. And my mom's like, oh no, he'd kill me. He doesn't like attention like that. But, it's funny that I look back on being younger. I'm proud of my age. I'm 53 years old. And I remember back when I was like 18, looking at my parents going, oh my gosh, they're like 40 and 50 years old. And how crazy is that? And now fast forward, here my dad's getting ready to be 80 and I'm in my 50s, and here we are.
No. Now let's take that a step further
Yeah,
because
like we've built careers, we've had families, we've survived machines and internet and all the fun holiday parties. Boy, do I remember that, with like bad singing and sheet cakes, right? I mean, and now it's like, gosh, it's just like we're moving into like new chapters and watching my parents move into new chapters in their lives as well too. It's just
Yeah.
kind of blowing my mind right now. I'm like,
And now our kids look at us as us being ancient.
hmm,
And so we're just right smack dab in the middle of all of this. And
isn't that
that leads us
true?
into really our topic today. And so there are so many things going on, but yes, just even trying to understand this age and ageism and having this topic today. But preparing and helping your dad or preparing for that 80th birthday, that's a big deal. But then we feel like we're still in our prime back when we were younger and we looked at our parents in their 50s and 60s and it was like, oh, they're so old.
Yeah.
And now the
And
younger
now here
generation's
I'm the
looking at
old one.
us.
Yeah. Now I'm the old one. My daughter's, she's 19 and she's like, what do you mean you don't know about this? And I'm like, hey, give me a break. You don't know how to use a landline. Back up.
Do you even know what a landline is?
Yeah. Or a rotary phone or a phone booth, right?
Exactly.
Jeez.
I'm hearing you. I'm with you on this. And even with today and talking about the show today and ageism and all of that, but there's a lot of things going on that I want to help set the record straight. And I know that we have a lot of friends that are our age, and I'm sure they'll be loving this too, because we're going to set the record straight today, Stacie. I'm telling
That's
you,
right.
we're not a relic. We
Nope.
are a resource.
That's right. I might be an antique, but I still got life.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're going to dive into this show today and talk a little bit about maybe some of the bias that may be going on with ageism and try to understand the clarity and confidence with some of this and provide more confidence for ourselves. I feel pretty confident in where I am in my age today, and I believe that everything I've done has brought me to here and now. All the education, all the experiences, whatever the case may be, I am here and now. And we all have skills and abilities and strengths and weaknesses, but we have grown through and enhanced that during this time. What are your thoughts on that, Stacie?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think so. I mean, it's one of those things where, at least for me, yeah, I'm 53. I'm getting ready to turn 54. I don't feel like that, right? Sometimes I still think I'm 26, right? So, and that can kind of get me in trouble at times. But age is to me it's just a number, right? I mean, we hear that all the time. Age is just a number, and it shouldn't really define anybody.
Mm-mm. No, you are exactly right. And with that being said, even with diversity in
Mm,
today's world, and there's been a big pushback on those three dirty word letters that people think are dirty words now of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I used to do a lot of trainings on that, but everything is diverse. No two people are alike, not even twins. They think differently and things like that. But diversity, even in age, can be something very, very important because we are continuing to learn from our aging parents and elderly loved ones, if you will. And we are teaching, hopefully, some of the younger generation coming up. But there's a lot of diversity here that can be shared. And maybe we're not as tech savvy as the ones who grew up in with all of the technological media, but we are still trainable. But those who grew up with all the technology media don't have the experience that we have, and they need to still remain trainable as well. What do you think?
yeah, I mean, I think that that's very true. I mean, yeah, I believe myself to be, when we were growing up, right, up in the 80s and stuff, that's when technology really kind of started, when like the first computers and those types of things coming up. So I'm not going to say that I am 100% not tech savvy, but there's probably some technology, right, that I can still learn. Um, and I even have my mom, who is in her 70s, calling me going, can you remind me how to work the TV? How do I get to my prime? So that has,
And my mom
helped.
used to do that with me too. She called me her button foot, her fixer, her button pusher.
Exactly. So there's some things that I still feel that I'm very well skilled in, just because I do tend to still have to help my mom, which is very hard just over the phone.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are some things that, I even have to go to my daughter and go, hey, show me how to get here. Show me that. Um, but, I don't think that just because of my age, I'm not, you know, uh, an old horse. Don't take me out back and shoot me.
Oh my goodness. And and that's something that's actually happening now, as far as some of the facts that are hitting home with some of this, as far as according to even AARP, 64% of workers that are over 50 have
Mm,
seen or experienced ageism and potential discrimination against that, and a lot of people who are over the age of 50, a lot of this is leading to maybe self-doubt or even withdrawal from even job searches. And so this is something that we want to take into consideration and bring back to awareness and understanding, because there's an old myth out there, seems to
mm,
be running around, that us older workers can't keep up with technology. And the fact is, many of us have become active learners. We've learned to operate Zoom. We had to do that through the pandemic. Many of us had to start working from home, and technology became the saving grace to even be able to pull us through that, or understanding Microsoft or Workspace or any of those things. So, tech confidence, or having confidence in technology skills, is not about age. Maybe we didn't grow up with it, but we can still learn it,
yeah,
you
I think
know?
so. I mean, even in my new role, right, that I just started, gosh, I don't know, about a month ago, I'm learning new technology, new computer-based programs that I have to now be able to learn and manage and be able to get information out of. And I'm not going to say I got a little bit of a learning curve, 100% fact, a little bit of a learning curve on it, but it's not that, but I don't feel like I can't learn it. And I think that that's a big difference, because I am learning it, and it may be taking me a little bit longer than maybe somebody that's, has more experience in the role that I'm in. And I'm thankful for the role that I'm in. Um, but all it's going to do is just build upon my skills that I already have.
Yes, yes, yes. Building upon our skills, because this journey is a journey of life. And if we ever stop having that willingness to learn, then we might as well just lay down and kick the bucket, because learning new things all the time is something that we can always do. And there is a lot of wisdom that we bring to the table. You know, we've learned how to be able to take a moment and maybe even manage our stress more effectively, but to take that deep breath and respond, rather than responding just bang, bang, bang off of the bat because something has got us stressed or upset. We have gained some sense of, you know, wisdom over maybe always reacting. Now, that's not always true for every single one of us, but even taking the time to learn about the new technology. But even Stacie, with that program that you're having to learn, that's in a specific department, and anyone who came in there, no matter what their age, they'd have to learn this new program.
Sure.
And so it really doesn't matter about age or being older as much as having that willingness to learn. We've learned to have wisdom. We've learned from our experiences. We've learned to be able to become even more resilient because we have overcome potential job loss in the past. We've managed change throughout our lives. Hey, we made it through the pandemic when, you know,
We made it through Y2K
because we partied like it was 1999 back
all
then.
day long with the raspberry beret. 100%.
And just like everybody else, we've been in that, we've all had our share. We always will. That family drama, I mentioned in a show a few shows back, I've got my in-laws and my outlaws. So we've all got the family drama, but we've been able to experience and come through that, hopefully with more wisdom. And even some of us may even now be in the sandwich generation. And, whether you know what that is or not, that's basically somebody that's in our age range that has aging or elderly loved ones. They may have children that's still at home that they're taking care of, or they may have even grown children who've moved back in with them during these, challenging times that we may be having. But they're taking care of themselves, their kids, their family, their job, and now even an aging loved one. So the sandwich generation is even growing and growing more. But we have survived all of these things, including, being unmuted accidentally on a Zoom meeting potentially,
For
and
not
having
muting
those
yourself.
career pivots.
Well, they definitely say wisdom comes with age, but along with that, it also, you can't beat a great sense of humor when it comes to all this stuff, right? I mean, I think that's just one thing that within our age, right? That's one thing that we can all probably look back and laugh on and just go, "Oh my gosh, look at where we were and now where we are now." So
Exactly, because we had to do things before there was such a thing as smartphones. And I'm telling, and emails and all of that. And I'm telling you, Stacie, you hadn't lived till you've taught a 25-year-old how to write an email that doesn't start with, hey.
that's true. That is true, 100%. But what's even funnier is, if you want to talk about hey, but how about teaching kids today? Like my daughter, she's brought me stuff before and says, "Mom, can you read this because it's in cursive?" Yeah,
Can you read it because it's what?
it's in cursive.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I've been trying to teach her here. Here we are trying to teach a 19-year-old how to write in cursive, right? So she can kind of learn those things because I think our generations, overlap so much that
Mhm,
I write in cursive all the time because it's faster, you know.
mhm.
Um, and being able to, plop that down in front of, the generations today, I think a lot of kids aren't going to be able to read that because everything, is done on smartphones, like you said, on AI. We were around before all those things, before the internet, before, when things started taking off. I mean, I didn't even get my first cell phone to 2003. I mean, how behind the times was I? I was so behind the times in 2003, when most people already had cell phones.
I think my first phone was through work and it was called a BlackBerry.
I had one of those too. Yeah. Mine was a flip phone.
But
Yeah.
prior to that, I had a pager and I would be on call and they would fix the numbers where it would be 911 if it was an emergency. And I had to go somewhere. If I was out, I had to go somewhere and find a phone. And
Yeah.
so
A payphone that don't exist anymore. Or
exactly.
Superman.
And I worked at a hospital. So when I was on call, I had to find something quickly and hope that it worked and hope that I had change in my pocket. And, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but over the course of time, I mean, 30 years, a lot has changed. I mean, we came from dealing with landlines and finding those payphones on the corner and working with maybe fax machines or copiers if they worked, and we had to actually get up and go over and sift through filing cabinets to find the right folder and file things. And today, it's all saved on the computer and you just pull it up just like that, quick, quick, quick.
Yeah.
But we had paper trails, so
Well, talk about technology. Also, I work in an office where I work now, and in the position that I am, of what I do, there are no desk phones. Nobody has a desk phone in my office.
yeah.
They either use their cell phones or they do like team meetings or they call out on their computer. And I'm like, why? That's kind of weird. Because all my working career, I've always had a desk phone. And this is the
I did
first
too.
first location that I've been in. Because like I walked around my office like the first couple of days I was there, I was like, because my phone doesn't work because of the service that I have where I work, like
Right.
because it's in a manufacturing building, right? It doesn't really work all that good. I have to go outside the building in order to use it. But I was walking around going, how do I call out without having to go outside? I need to call, the other location. How do I do it? Because there is no phone. I look like a weirdo.
Did you get an answer? Did somebody help
I
you?
did because there were some HR people that have phones, so I had to go into the HR office and borrow a phone. And then later, as I was walking through my new office, I found these uh, kind of like cubbies where they have phones in there, and you can like close the door and have private conversations. So I was like, okay, I'm good. I can make this work.
All about change, though. All
All
about
about
maneuvering. And you're not too old to figure that out, correct?
no, not at all, man. It's just come on, it's a landline. How hard is that?
No, we're going to get rid of those completely once and for all, sooner or later, and they're just about gone, I think. And, years ago, showing an old rotary or dial-up phone, kids were like, how did you use that?
Yeah, they didn't understand. Yeah, they didn't understand.
And I
And
remember when we went to punch button phones and we thought we were really cool with that. But now,
yeah, yeah, and then like call waiting.
yeah.
That
Those
was
were
the big.
all big new things. And then when you got an answering machine, that actually sit there on the counter. And so you'd have to go over and punch the button, see if you had any messages, and it would be
That's
blink.
right.
And all of
Right.
that stuff gone by the wayside now and then. But we've we've overcome a lot and we have a lot of wisdom and we can certainly share that. And so why is ageism such a factor today? And there's a lot of fear surrounding this with change and maybe even some financial anxiety and maybe even fear of feeling or being left behind, you
I
know?
think that I think that's a big one of being felt like you're going to be left behind. That everybody else is going to be moving forward. I know my parents have probably experienced some of that with technology, and my mom having to call me to remind her how to work the TV. Right? And I think I hear sometimes that frustration in her voice that she just kind of feels like things are moving so quickly when it comes to technology.
Yeah.
It's always if something goes wrong on her phone, oh, this stupid phone, right? I mean, she's just like, I can't, and I'm just like, Mom, it's okay. Just don't even worry about it. So I think that fear of not being able to kind of keep up is big with the generation even older than us.
Yes. But they're still learning. They're still willing to learn some of this stuff. But we've got, let's be honest, there's as as usual in any of our lives, but with technology and everything spreading and expanding faster than we can keep up with. But there's still a lot of things happening on the landscape with potential layoffs. And, is ageism going to be a factor in some of those layoffs? The older generation, because we're older, wiser, maybe we may be too expensive for them, or we can't learn like the younger generation or whatever the case may be. And so there's a lot of fear with that, but it really shouldn't be the case. I mean, Stacie, look at you and I know a lot of friends in our age group have been able to overcome a lot of this. And so let's talk a little bit about why that fear feels so big right now. People maybe feel like they're losing some control. And we've built years and years, our entire lifetime of building some kind of stability. And the older we get, maybe the scarier the term starting over may feel or sound to us. But I never like to use that term starting over. I like to use let's create a new chapter and begin to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that because I know stability, even though, obviously I'm not as old as my parents, but stability right now and financial concerns and all these things that are kind of like up in the air right now when it comes to our administration and feeling, what's the word, almost, I don't want to say personally attacked, but I'm just like, the inflation and things going on is like my life right now is just kind of like, ooh, what's going to happen? And
Yeah.
I am starting over in a new role, so I do, because I am learning a different set of skills right now, but I don't necessarily consider it starting over. I just kind of feel like I'm again kind of building on what I have. But you never know what's going to happen in the job market or with inflation or tariffs and what's happening in healthcare and in all those things. So I can see where fear can really build up in people right now because I'm fearful. I'll admit it. There's a lot of things that I'm fearful about right now, and finances is one of my biggest concerns.
And I am right there with you. And then not knowing, there's a lot of layoffs and a lot of things going on even with that. And so our feelings of retirement, our security, and having this job that maybe we have worked toward and we're getting ready, or we'd like to see this play out through our retirement, if you will. But there's a lot of noise out there, and we need to bring it home and have faith in believing in us, because fear is not necessarily the enemy. It's resistance to change. And we fight against that change instead of working with it, because everything is going to change. Again, we've talked about a lot of change that even we've been through, with going from landlines to cell phones to now, AI and everything that's going on. So there's a lot of fear. And if we can maybe stop resisting change, because when we do that, that increases our feelings of stress. So there are some things that we can begin to do, Stacie, to actually be able to manage and work through some of that fear that we may be feeling right now. And we've talked in the past, and I like to bring it home to what you can control and what you can't control. But even naming that fear, you know, working in the addiction field and mental health, the first step to recovery is admitting the problem. And it doesn't have to be solely based on alcohol and drugs. It can be based on anything going on in our life. So even admitting, like you just did, and I'm willing to say that too, I have my own sense of fear, but even admitting there is some fear and then being able to name that fear. What is that fear, and naming it or writing it down. Something happens when we write things down rather than just let it continuously move through our mind or our thought process. So, what are some things we can do to begin to name that fear? Like, is that fear financial stress, maybe running out of money, or maybe worrying about our age and feeling irrelevant, or maybe even feeling like we don't belong anymore, being kicked out to pasture in the old terms of things, not being wanted. And we all need that sense of belonging. So naming that fear begins to take away some of its power, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. And I think fear is a very natural feeling that all of us definitely have, but knowing though, what it is you're actually afraid of, being able to sit down and figure out where it stems from, I think is very important. Naming it, I think is extremely important. And then going beyond that is then figuring out, right, what you can control of it, and those things that you can't control of it, right, is then breaking that fear down a little bit more to help you be able to manage, right? Okay, well, how can I combat this fear? Okay, this is what I can do. This is what I can't do. So let's focus on what I can do, and hopefully that will squash the other, the other part of it, that the part that you feel like you can't control.
Exactly. And in some of the first shows that we had, you were in the process of trying to find a new job, and you worked, and you got a new job, but you also took it to that step of what you could control, and you even wrote down the steps of what you wanted. Do you recall that?
Oh yeah.
And so can you kind of maybe provide a little reminder here of how, because you had a lot of fear, you know, was I not going to
Yeah.
end up with a job and things like that? And so this is very relevant to what many of us are going through today. And I'm sure your age and the thought about your age also played a role in this.
It did
Mhm.
very much. And it, being able to write that list down helped me to acknowledge what I was fearful of, and then being able to also writing the list of what I wanted out of my next position
Mhm.
gave me the sense of control. Like I had control back over that fear. And it helped me also to kind of provide myself kind of like an action plan, right? To how to take action on it. Of again, here's what I want to do. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Now, how am I going to accomplish that? And then be able to, create that action plan to accomplish what I needed to accomplish. And it was like a list of 10 things. And does your list have to be that long? No, not at all. But it helped me because I was very specific and detailed in what I was looking for in my next role.
Exactly. And so this helped you to get all of those fast, crazy, fear-based thoughts out of your mind, put it on paper to give you some sense of clarity, some
Mm-hmm.
sense of grounding, and to help you to create that action plan and to be able to move forward in starting having the focus towards your action plan. So you actually broke it down into those steps. And that's something that we can all begin to do. And I cannot stress enough just taking the time to write down, admit the problem. First step to recovery, admitting the problem. And the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. So the first step, just taking the time to write that down, isolate that fear, be able to look at it and know that it's not as scary as it is when it's just running through your mind. And then actually understand where that's coming from, and then what can you control about this, what you can't control about it, kind of like making a list of pros and cons, if you will. And then ground your thinking and start making some steps of what can I do to learn new things, to move forward so that I can create and finish out my career and my journey in a big, big way. Because progress always starts with confidence and clarity and focus. And always know that you don't have to do or fix everything today. This didn't happen overnight. It's not going to get better overnight, but we can certainly take the steps to begin a daily practice of taking better care of ourselves, admitting what it is, writing down what I can do, making that action plan for each of those steps, and take that one courageous step in the direction of improving or setting up your next chapter to be the best ever. Because
Yeah.
it's not about starting over. It's
Mm.
about starting from where you are, all that you have gained, everything that's brought you to here and now, and knowing that you are worthy, you are capable. And I'm going to hit it. LNT. Simply having that willingness to learn new things.
That's right. And it all stems from just starting from the wisdom, right? And building upon what we already know. I mean, I know we've all heard the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right?
Yep.
But I'm not calling anybody old, so don't go there with me because I'm not. But, sometimes just need sure and a few minutes of quiet, before we can kind of move on and continue on our journey, which is totally okay because it all just starts, like you said, with that small little step.
Yeah. And I want to reiterate on your statement about you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Let me give you a little story about this. My
Okay.
dad was in his 80s. He had fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. He was Special Forces, Green Beret, all of those types of things. And he spent was as I was growing up, he would be like, Terry, I hate change. As he got older, I hate change. And I was like, Pop, things are always changing. You're gonna have to learn to move through it. You have. Look at all these wars you've been in, look at all the changes you've had. You've raised a family, you've overcome, major trauma in from Vietnam and all of those things. And so, as technology began to unfold and expand, and social media came out, he started asking me questions about what is this Facebook thing? And I was like, well, Pop, it appears to be because this was back when it was first getting going. And he said, "Are you a part of this?" And I said, yes, I am. I've been on it, I guess, about a year, but it's kind of a way for people to connect and get to know each other. And I'm meeting some old friends that I haven't seen in years and years and years. So it was kind of exciting back in the day when all of that was happening. And he said, well, what if I want to do something with this Facebook thing? And I said, don't worry about it, Pop. It's okay. You don't have to worry about it. You probably won't find any interest in it at all. But there are people out there that I could talk to. And I said, yeah, probably so. One day, about a month after that, telling me that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Suddenly, I get a friend request on my Facebook, and I'm in another town from my father. he he asked some questions, he got some help, he figured it out, and I was the first one he sent a friend request to.
Wow, way to go,
And
Pops.
I was so surprised. And then shortly after that, my mother followed suit. So
Nice.
everybody was on Facebook. And so you're never too old. And you can always have that willingness to learn new things. Because if my dad was in his 80s and was willing to do that, anybody can do and learn new things. And there's a lot of power in learning new things.
There,
Stacie, it's It boosts your brain health. It keeps you active in your mind. It helps with emotional resilience, even, and improves your confidence. He was so proud of himself
Oh, I
just
bet he was.
for that willingness to do that. And then my mom was extremely excited too. And then they just started seeing their friends, and she'd get on there every day and he would too. And they would have these little conversations. So instead of feeling older and isolated, or even like when we were in the pandemic, that helped people to still feel connected.
Hmm. Yeah,
And that
definitely.
sense of connection is also underneath that learning new things to be able to maintain that sense of connection, even in the technology ways of today. So, it also helps even to replace fear with that fear of the unknown. What is this Facebook thing? The
Yeah.
fear of the unknown, to being able to move forward in a more focused choice option fashion, which helps to actually remove feelings of anxiety. I don't know how to do this, and I'm afraid of it. Back to that fear again. I have some fear about this because it's something unknown. But if we are willing to admit that fear and be able to move through it, and then just like with my dad, he had that sense of accomplishment, you know, that
Mhm.
he'd done something. And I just think that this is something that we can all begin to do. And ageism, you can teach an old dog new tricks.
You can. Yeah. I mean, 100% you can. And because it also, though, not only does it help with, fear of anxiety and those types of things, but it also helps then to gain, right? Give you that little push of momentum, right? I mean, you've accomplished this. Well, what else now can I accomplish, right? So you start taking these baby steps, and and it's not just technology. Maybe it's learning to cook. Maybe it's driving a car, driving a stick shift, or planting a garden. I mean, no matter what it could be, just learning these little things as you're moving forward, I think can open the doors for not only our younger generation, our generation, and even our older generation.
Yes.
I think it's wonderful to go ahead and keep moving because you think about, okay, this is what I've done for years, and isn't it valuable in what I'm doing now? Well, yes, it is. But just think, if you can kind of move past that a little bit more, how much more valuable are you going to be becoming, right? You're going to use those skills just like your dad did, just like in the story that you told us, and him becoming more confident. And that, I think, probably helped promote his own sense of worth and the skills that he had learned growing up
Mhm.
to be able to break through that barrier. So, hey, I'm proud of your dad, proud of Pops. Way to go.
Exactly. And and we all have unique skills and abilities, and no matter what our age is, we've gained that experience. And whether it's leadership skills, being able to role model even in our with our family and our children, that's leadership. If we're becoming a positive role model for that, or our colleagues or clients, that's building your leadership skills. These things are all transferable no matter what aspect of life that you're in, or having experiences where we've been through crises or traumatic events or pandemics or whatever the case may be. But even managing crises, being able to take a step back when we need to, and think about, what can I control and what can I not control, or even having that communication and conflict resolution. I mean, these are skills that we can utilize, build upon, and even help to transfer over if we were in the middle of starting a new chapter, or maybe even having to look to get another or different job. And even coaching, you know we with our colleagues, are we the person that maybe people turn to for advice or trust? That's coaching, even, if you will. Do you know of maybe even some other skills that maybe I didn't mention here that you could throw out there?
Oh, there's so many skills. I mean, I know, you know, as we talked about, I think in our last episode, being able to budget and plan, fiscally and financially and those types of things. I know I work with my daughter a lot when it comes to that, and try and help friends, and even kind of like myself, revisiting that for myself, and being able to continue to evolve with those skills and just keep moving forward with them.
Absolutely. And these things, Stacie, they never go away.
No, they don't. No, once you know the skill, I mean, it's with you forever.
Yes.
So
And
why not share it?
exactly. Utilize that, build upon that. And if you're someone who's concerned about your current job, or maybe even potentially there's been a lot of layoffs and things like that, think about those things. Even when you're back there, when we talked earlier about that fear and what that fear was, that, admitting it and then writing down what you can control and what you can't control, but then figuring out what these valuable skills that you bring with you uh can incorporate even into maybe a new position or a new job. What do you think about that? Because you're never ever too old to begin again. And again, I don't like to use starting over. I'm saying starting from where you are now and starting that new chapter, because
Yeah.
you have everything you need within you here and now.
Yeah, and I think, being able to share those skills that you have now, granted you need an audience that's going to be receptive to that skill. But what I find though, like in today's workforce, especially where I work, there are generations of families that work there, from grandparents to parents to their kids, and then their kids, right, are
Yeah.
coming up. I mean, there are, right now, I think our workforce can consist of four plus generation, right, of
Mhm.
people in the workforce. Doesn't necessarily they all work at the same company, but there are a lot of people like that at my company. But there are generations of families that are in our workforce today, that if you look at the oldest of that generation, what skills can they continue to pass down to help better the upcoming management, or the upcoming technologist, or the upcoming student, for that matter, right?
Mhm.
Coming up through there, and what they can share, as long as they're open to receiving it, not going, oh, that's so old fashioned, right?
Back in my day.
And maybe it is a bit old fashioned, but sometimes being old fashioned and starting at that basic level
Hmm.
can, and you build upon that, can skyrocket you to something greater. And,
Yes,
but you wouldn't have known that unless you knew how it started, right? You have to know the beginning to get to the end.
exactly. And with all these generations that are still in the workforce now, um, that younger generation, they bring the tech savviness and they bring the speed. But for the older generations that are still working, we can bring the strategies, and we can bring the balance, and we can bring the experience, and to make good choices with that. So this isn't a divide that many of us think are going on in the workforce today, but we can make that a bridge that begins with our mindset. Are we going into this with, oh, those young whippersnappers kind of mentality, and those younger people going, those old codgers over there? I mean, why can we not bridge this gap and have that willingness to even learn from one another, bringing out those new solution creative ideas and helping one another to balance this? These are things that all of us can begin to do, and even in the workforce, where we can even practice patience, problem solving, mentorship, emotional intelligence, having that sense of empathy, understanding our feelings and our emotions, and bringing out that leadership that everyone can begin to grow and create because leadership starts from within. So, are we doing that as well?
Yeah. I took a training actually, was it Friday? Was it yesterday? Ooh, I can't remember. Anyways, but
Oh,
but it
Stacie,
was
don't show your
on,
age.
I know, right? Um, but it was on skillful conversations,
Ah.
which was really kind of interesting. And it was interesting to kind of see who was on it and the age range that kind of attracted this type of training. And a lot of it was talked about being able to communicate in ways that um, doesn't throw the other person off, like not speaking so much in slang, because a lot of us do, especially like when we talk, we can use a lot of our own slang words, I've I've learned since I talk to a lot of people who are international, a lot of their sayings don't necessarily translate, and a lot of my sayings don't translate a lot, because they gave an example on the training, which I thought was funny, that there was, an American person and then a person from India, right? And they were having a
Mhm.
conversation. And the person from America said to the person in India, where are you coming from? And the person from India took that as, what do you mean? Like, what? Why does it matter that I'm from India? Instead of realizing that that slang phrase for us would be like, oh, you need more understanding because you didn't understand what I was saying. And it was just examples like that of knowing that how to have a skillful conversation with people, especially when it comes to age differences, because again, I might say something and my parents will look at me and go, what? Or my daughter says something and I'm like, what do you mean you're cooking? What are you cooking? Right? I don't understand. And she has to explain it to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, got it. So it was a really neat training. So that kind of, I don't even know where I was going with that, but on a sense, it was, where people can kind of come together with different ages that I think can help connect us all within the workforce.
Yes, bringing that feeling of patience, but yet problem solving and having that different perspective. Those are things that we can all do, but even with that leadership and that emotional intelligence and, being more clear about what we're about to say, thinking about what we're about to say and how that other person may perceive it. As I said a while ago, you hadn't lived till you teach somebody that's coming in not to start their emails with, hey, so or, I think the new phrase out now is that's sick. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that sick
Yeah.
is supposed to be a great thing. But back when
Yeah,
I was growing up, that sick means somebody was sick. That's not a good thing.
that's
So
true.
just getting into the understanding of communicating with one another, and making sure that everyone feels valued and heard and that everyone understands what is being said, is something that we can all begin to do and be more open to listen to what someone else is trying to tell us as well. Because you know what? We've walked through the change, we've been through a great deal of it, and we've come out stronger.
Mm,
And we
yeah.
don't have to feel like we're being defined by our age.
Mm-mm.
We
No,
don't have to.
no, because we're always defined by our purpose, right? I mean, everybody is. It's like we said earlier, age is just a number. It does not reflect of who you are, your personality, what your purpose is in life. And of course, that's different for everybody, but find your purpose and don't worry about your age. That's what I'm about. Don't worry about my age.
People are like, Terry, when are you going to retire? And I said, I'm not. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing until I don't. And that's pretty much how I look at it at this point. So finding that purpose, being defined by your purpose, believing in who you are, and maintaining that sense of self-esteem, confidence, and keeping yourself having that willingness to LNT, to learn new things. And so that helps us to become the best version of ourselves as we grow on this thing of a journey that we call life. And Stacie, I want to, I know that you wanted to add some extra things here, and we're going to add over the course of the next few weeks at the end of our show a affirmation chakra segment. And I'm very excited to hear about this, and I want to let you kind of explain what we're going to do at the end of the next few shows and these shows so that we can help people to begin to grow as well.
Yeah, I think it's very important for everybody to be able to grow no matter what age you are. And and just like our show, right? The I Am Power Hour
Mhm.
is just that. So when we think about our chakras, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard chakras, right? They're points in our system that help us become more grounded, become more of a whole type of human being. Um, so this week we are going to start with what is called our base chakra, which is at the bottom of our spine. Like if we were to sit down, when the bottom of your spine hits the ground, that is considered your root chakra, and it's there to help you feel grounded, stability, focus, those types of feelings. And it's important because if you're not in balance, you can be all over the place,
Yeah.
right? Your survival instincts go out the window if you're not grounded or if you're not rooted. Um, and ways that you can kind of tell that maybe you're not in balance, because it can really affect you physically, emotionally, even sometimes even psychologically. So like lower back pain, leg pain is something physical that you might be able to experience. Like I know I am a little bit out of balance right now because I have some lower back pain, and I'm that is going to be my challenge
Mhm.
this next week, is to get back into balance, which will also help my like emotional feeling, right? We've been talking about fear
Yes.
today and anxiety. It will help kind of level that out because you're more grounded and you're more rooted in like beliefs, or you're focusing. It can help with procrastination, and then also excessive worry, right? Whether you're worrying about financial stability or survival, being able to be grounded is very, very good.
Hmm.
Um, so, how we do that is starting with the root chakra, is with the I am phrase. So,
Yes.
we can all do that. You could say, I am grounded, I am safe, I am, even if you want to like try and think about financial stability, I am financially stable, I am wealthy, I am loved. Whatever it is that you feel like you need to be rooted in, start with that phrase, I am, and take a few minutes every day just to sit and breathe and remind yourself, I am. And whatever it is you feel like you need to remind yourself that you are, whether it's strong, fearless, beautiful, loved, a great parent, whatever it is, it
Yes.
can really, really help you. So these grounding exercises can come in very handy, like and they could be any type of activity that can connect you, whether it's gardening, riding a bike, or just spending time outside. That's one of the probably the easiest ways to get rooted and to say these affirmations to yourself. But if you can't get outside, meditate, do some visualizations, do some physical activity if you can. And if you can't, just sit there at your desk, right, while you're working and repeat these affirmations to yourself. I am grounded. I am safe. I am secure. And try that for 7 days and see that at the end of those 7 days, how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm telling you, it will make a big difference in your life. I know it has for me. Terry, I know you use affirmations a lot every day, and I know they boost your whole mentality as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes, absolutely. And when I was going through some of the toughest times in my life, many years ago, and I found out about these things called affirmations, that I am are two very powerful words for what you put after them. Create your reality. And
mhm,
so I actually began, because I had a lot of fear, I had a lot of stress, I had a lot of things going on, and I actually began walking and exercising. And instead of letting all of those old, worrisome, negative, fear based tapes go through my mind, even while I was walking, I began to replace them with what I called my alphabet game. And it was my I am alphabet game. And I would be walking and I would start with the letter A, and I would have to think, I am able. I am abundant. And I would come up with as many higher energy, positive words to complete the term I am. That one actually moved all those negative tapes that were running through my mind constantly, because I was focusing on that. And then I would move to the letter B, and I would be, I am believing, I am beautiful, whatever the case may be. And I would go through the alphabet while I walked. And this actually helped me to grow and start replacing a lot of that fear based thinking. With something more powerful. And this is a practice. And as Stacie said, we're going to build on this at the end of the next few shows, for the next 7 shows. But start with the I am, because that's your beginning of your grounding exercises. And that is just a little exercise that I began to do, kind of made up as I went. I do have a little segue here of X, Y, and Z. May be difficult to come up with something, but if so, and you're still walking, start over with A again. But I did come up with one with Y, and that is I am young.
there you go.
And so, with this being an ageism show and segment, I wanted to make sure that we got that in there. But again, everybody, start today. I am, and come up with something very powerful and encouraging. Whether you believe it at first or not, keep saying it in your mind.
That's right. And if you can't even get past the Z, like Terry says, start over. And what's also good when you're working and maybe and doing these affirmations is to correlate them with the crystal, because each chakra does have a crystal that goes along with it. And for the root chakra and the I am, the type of crystal, if you can find one, is a red coral. It's very great to help you to be grounded. You can carry it with you. You can get a small one, pop it in your wallet. You could put it by your bedside. You could put it underneath your pillow. And if all else fails, if you cannot find a red coral, a type of crystal that is readily available that could take the place of any crystal, because we're really finding that crystals hold a lot of healing power, and they're used in many different types of medicines to help heal the body, is just an easy, clear quartz crystal. I don't know if you can see that. This is my personal one. It's not very big. I stick it in my pocket. It's sometimes in my car. Sometimes it's sitting by my bed. I put it wherever I feel like I need it.
Mhm.
And what also is good to help you stay grounded if you can't find crystals is get yourself what I call a handstone. It could be a river rock, it could be a crystal, it could be any type of stone that you can find that you can hold in your hand. And when you find yourself needing to be grounded, to be rerouted, you just hold it in your hand, right? And rub it and you think about it, and it helps to kind of reconnect you and bring you back to your center. And it's a really good tool. I keep it in my pocket all the time, and I use it a lot. And I think it's wonderful. So try it for 7 days, because promoting, as I just dropped it, oops, having a sense of grounding is going to help
Yes.
in this journey.
Absolutely. And I think that is absolutely excellent information. And full disclosure, I carry a few things in my pocket as well. And especially even when I'm out speaking in public, and I'll put my hand in my pocket and that just, and just kind of hold them for a second. And, I move on. And it just gives you that sense of maybe grounding or safety or security, all of those types of things. But again, even be able to use your I am affirmations. And so I absolutely love this segment that we're going to be adding for the next few shows and building upon that, Stacie. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm excited for it, because I love my crystals. So
and you are very knowledgeable in that fact, and so we will definitely carry this forward, that's for sure. But Stacie, I think that's going to be a wrap for our episode on the I Am Power Hour, where we actually spoke on breaking that age barrier, reinventing our life and career with confidence after 50.
After 50, that is true. And we hope you're walking away with some inspiration and maybe even a new perspective.
And we'd love to hear from you. So feel free to email us at IamPowerHour@gmail.com. So until next time, keep shining, stay curious, and as always,
own your power.
Own your power. I love it. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Terry. Bye, everyone.
You've been watching the I Am Power Hour with Terry J. Walker and Stacie Staten. You can email the show at IamPowerHour@gmail.com. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.